Now you can refer to our cash settled share-based payment transactions, the light green block. Remember, we've indicated that you need to know that if there's cash settled transactions, that you need to remeasure the fair value of the liability at the end of each reporting period. And the vesting conditions rules will be exactly the same as per our equity settled. Now guys, you can refer to your right bottom side of your screen and let's talk through a very basic example, exactly the same information as our previous example. On grant date, which will be the end of year 1, a transaction with one employee or an agreement, guys, to receive 30, not options. Remember, options relates to our equity settled. There should be share appreciation rights or a cash value of shares. Vesting period, yes, therefore recognize over the vesting period. Fair value on grant date will be our 5 Rand. But the fair value at our year end of our reporting period, will now be 10 Rand. And remember, this will not be a share-based payment reserve. This will be a liability. And our profit and loss column. Now, when we talk about cash settled, this is my recommendation. Always first include a timeline to ensure that you understand the information and that you are able to identify what the fair value is at the end of each year end. And then secondly, include your table. Now, when you perform your calculations, you will be able to identify on grant date that our total liability is 75 Rand. Therefore, in our profit and loss, we will recognize 75 Rand and we will have to debit our employee costs, profit and loss, and credit the liability cash settled or a share-based liability if they refer to cash. But guys, my recommendation, always use the word cash settled. Okay, you will identify some of the examples, use different words, but I want you to please refer to the word cash settled liability. And this will be 75 Rand and 75 Rand. Remember, this is grant date. Then the next amount at the end of our reporting period will be a total liability that should be recognized in our statement of financial position, should be 300 Rand. Therefore, we now need to recognize 125 because we have already recognized 75 Rand. Our additional portion will then be to debit our employee expenses, credit our liability with a 125. And at the end of the reporting period, our total liability amount in our statement of financial position will now be 300 Rand. Now I want you to focus on the third type, when there is a choice on how to settle for the share-based payment transaction. Remember, either our counterparty can have the choice or our entity has the choice. Now, when we look at the choice for our counterparty, you need to think about this, guys. Remember, this is a transaction between our entity and another party or an agreement. Now, we are looking at this purely from our entity's perspective. Do you agree with me that our entity does not know what the choice will be of our other party? Therefore, our entity does not have an unconditional right to avoid paying cash. Our other party might decide to opt for the cash option. Therefore, our entity has to recognize a compound financial instrument, and our debt component will be cash settled and the equity component will be equity settled. Now remember that this will be at initial recognition. Now on settlement, our compound financial instrument, the liability portion that we know will be cash settled, should be remeasured to the fair value and reduced to zero if paid. Remember, liability, when we pay the liability, we will debit our liability and credit our bank account. Or if there is a reclassification to equity shares being issued. Now, what does this mean? When they decide to issue equity shares, we need to reclassify. And then the amount recognized in our equity will remain in our equity. Now, when the choice is with our entity, it is extremely important to identify if there is a present obligation. Remember, guys, if there's a present obligation, you need to know that there will be an obligation to pay cash. Therefore, if we pay the cash, this will be cash settled. If there is no present obligation, this will be equity settled. Now, how do you determine if there is a present obligation or not? You need to look at our commercial substance over legal form. What is the past practice, policies of the entity? And do they generally settle in cash? Remember that this will be at initial recognition. Now, on settlement date, if they have accounted for as equity settled, but they now settle based on cash, you need to account for the repurchase of equity interest. So guys, you need to take out of our equity and transfer liability and then pay the liability. If they have accounted for this as cash settled, but on settlement date, entity settles in equity, you need to reclassify the liability to equity. Please focus on the red block, cancellation. Now, when we talk about cancellations, you need to know how to account for a cancellation. How do we account for settlement? And then how do we account if there is issue of new instruments? Now, you will identify that I've included our basic example again at the top. And this will be, how do we account for a cancellation? Number one, in this basic example again, we have one employee, 30 options, 2 years vesting period. The fair value at grant date is R5. This is a share-based payment transaction, which we have identified to be equity settled. And they indicate to us at the end of year one, the agreement will be cancelled. Now, the rule indicates to us that we now need to recognize for an accelerated vesting. Therefore, we need to recognize the unrecognized amount at the end of year one. Now, do you agree with me that our amount that we will still recognize in year two will be the R75, but we now need to accelerate our vesting. Therefore, our journal entry at the end of year one will be to debit our employee cost, credit our share-based payment reserve with a total of 150. Then number two, how do we account for settlement? What you need to identify is if the settlement, the payment, exceeds the fair value of our equity. Therefore, if our payment exceeds fair value, that excess shall be recognized as an expense in our profit and loss. Then, when there is new shares being issued, you need to identify if this is a modification or not. Therefore, if there is a replacement, this will be treated as a modification, a replacement. You need to know that this will be treated as a modification. Then, when there is no issue of new shares, no issue, no replacement, you need to treat this as a normal cancellation where you will have to accelerate vesting. Now I want you to please refer to the modifications, which forms part of our equity settled transaction. Again, this light blue box in the middle of your screen. Modifications can either be beneficial to employees or not beneficial. If it's not beneficial, you just ignore this and recognize as a minimum grant date fair value. Now, modifications should be known on an awareness level. They indicate to us if the fair value of the modified instrument exceeds the fair value of the original instrument, you need to recognize an incremental amount for the remaining vesting period. Now, what does this mean, guys? If, for example, our remaining vesting period is 2 years, the original vesting period was 3 years. But on date of modification, which is the end of year 1, our remaining period will now be 2 years. Our fair value of our modified instrument was 8 Rand and the fair value of our original instrument was 5 Rand. Therefore, there is a 3 Rand difference. And you need to calculate your reserve based on the 3 Rand and a vesting period 1/2 for the first year and the second year 2/2. Now, I know that the screen is extremely busy, guys, but you need to take a few minutes, sit back, look at this, identify the different sections, and note how to apply the principles. Please refer to your top right side, the BEE transaction. How do we account for BEE transactions? Now, a BEE transaction will be when the entity provide equity in return to a BEE partner to be part of our firm to ensure that this entity receives an increased level, meaning either a level 1 or 2, where this BE level will provide the entity with sufficient contracts. Now, how do you measure the value of that good BE level, guys? How do you quantify this? Now, they indicate to us in FRG 2.14 and 0.15. They indicate to us that when there's a difference between the fair value of the equity instruments, fair value of our equity instruments, and this exceeds the fair value of the BE credentials, which I'm not pretty sure how you're going to measure though, exceeds the fair value of the BE credentials, that this difference is an intangible asset, which I agree with. But now the problem, this intangible asset will not comply with the rules or the principles in terms of the definition of IAS 38 and should be expensed in profit and loss. FRG 2.15 indicates to us that if the BE credentials are directly attributable, now they can indicate that this directly relates to an intangible asset, that any additional costs should be expensed and the fair value may be recognized as an intangible asset in terms of IAS 38, the fair value of the BE credentials. If they are able to indicate that this directly relates to a certain intangible asset. I'm going to conclude on this revision lecture on IFRS 2. Guys, you need to do questions and examples on IFRS 2 to ensure that you know how to apply the principles that you need to study. I know that if you look at this page, you really want to run away. I have to admit it does look quite busy. But if you take this step by step, looking at the recording step by step, adding your notes, ensure that you understand that section and work through questions and examples. You should be familiar with IFRS 2 and be able to answer the questions.